Why no one can escape Fromville. What if the monsters aren't the curse, but the correction? In Fromville, time doesn't move forward, it compresses. Like a wheel turning, every choice you make is just an echo of someone who died before you. I've archived the truth about the 12 earthly branches and the calendar trap that keeps everyone prisoner. Listen closely, because in this town, even memory is a part of the machinery. Ville doesn't feel abandoned. It feels unfinished, like a house where someone meant to clean up, and never did. The clothes remain folded in drawers. The jukebox resets itself. The calendar fills with marks that no one fully understands, and yet nothing ever truly disappears. It accumulates, and maybe that's the point. Because what if Fromville isn't cursed? What if it's simply a system under pressure, a cycle that adapts every time someone becomes aware of it? Time here doesn't move forward, it compresses. 96 quiet days weren't peace. They were tension building behind glass. When new archetypes arrive, the skeptic, the healer, the storm leader, the gears don't start turning, they engage and the town exhales, not in relief, but in correction. Fear and hope describe two opposing yet complementary cosmic energies that form the dualistic foundation, symbolizing the interconnectedness and balance of opposites in the universe. The concept comes from the dark side and the sunny side of a hill, and is represented by a circle divided into black and white, swirling halves, each containing a dot of the opposite color, signifying that each force contains a part of the other. In many traditional cosmologies, 12 earthly branches' fate is not seen as a straight line, but as a circle or repeating cycle. Time itself is imagined as a wheel. Every event, every choice is not completely new, but an echo of a previous moment. The same hours or branches return endlessly, carrying with them the same potentials, omens, and dangers. What has happened tends to happen again when the same hour or symbolic node arrives, que sera sera. For example, Snake Hour repeatedly brings omens of hidden poison or betrayal. Cyclical fate becomes visible through anchors, clocks, rituals, thresholds, alarms, physical markers that lock in the repeating omen. The anchor is like a knot that ties the cycle to material life. People are not entirely free, but neither are they powerless. Acting unconsciously, one is dragged by the wheel. Acting consciously, one can step sideways, disrupt, or reframe the cycle. Cyclical fate is seductive because it feels inevitable. The true challenge is whether a community or a hero can step off the wheel, or whether attempts to escape only create another repetition. Cyclical fate means destiny is not a straight path but a wheel. Each time the wheel turns, the same trials reappear, unless someone consciously interrupts the pattern. 96 days of peace, no deaths, no chaos. The cycle looked paused, or at least running at its lowest gear. Then Jade and Tabitha arrive and disturbances start. Clocks tick again, omens return. This suggests the cycle needs a trigger, not just time passing, but new input from choosing roles. The wheel keeps turning, but most souls are passengers at the motel as guest. A recurring archetypes who comes back into the same system, often carrying fragments of memory or archetypal role. Their presence reactivates the gears. They embody a specific branch, 12-hour archetype and pull the wheel forward again. Without recurring archetypes, the wheel spins but has no drama like an empty clock. With recurring archetypes, omens manifest, because the roles have incarnated into flesh again. Think of it like a cosmic clock, 12 branches as wheel, anchors like clocks, alarms, thresholds as gears. Recurring archetypes as weights or pendulum that keeps it moving. Without recurring archetypes, the gears don't engage. The cycle is steady but empty. That's why the town was quiet before Jade and Tabitha. The cycle was waiting for the right players to arrive. Boyd is strange because he's in the cycle, but his broken watch makes him misaligned. This means he's walking outside the gear pattern, even if he doesn't consciously realize it. The core of movement is not the town itself, but the arrival of Jade and Tabitha who plug into the 12-hour cycle. Every new cycle begins when enough archetypes are embodied. Christy, Marielle as a healer, Boyd as storm leader, Tien Chen as sacrificial goat, Donna as Cassandra, Jade as decoder, etc. When those roles are all present, the wheel turns and omens activate. Peace only exists in the gaps between recurring archetypes or when roles are not filled. If one archetype truly steps outside the gear, such Boyd with broken time, he could jam the clock. If no new recurring archetypes arrive, the town goes into pause mode again. Kenny breaks the jukebox, and next day it's back, good as new. That is textbook recurrence. The artifact repairs itself because the cycle demands continuity. It proves time in the town is circular, not linear. Events reset, objects restore, because the omen demands the stage always be ready. Omen attempts to end something mechanically, such break jukebox. Smash device are swallowed by recurrence. Fate heals the gear to keep the pattern running. Sometimes the lights flicker or go out. Unlike the jukebox, the power grid doesn't always self-heal. That flicker is the town showing its seams. Fate's machinery isn't perfect. It hiccups. The town is the gearbox of cyclical fate. Whether as outer dial or false movement. Clocks and anchors as inner teeth or omens repeat. Residents as weights that drive the pendulum. Artifacts such jukebox proof that physical reality is bound to the cycle. Some things always reset, others flicker or showing cracks. Let's see on the screen. Why no mark label as question? In omen logic, no mark at all wasn't safety. It meant the cycle refused to answer. If heaven was silent, humans had to be extra cautious. Sometimes silence was considered worse than a bad omen, because it meant something outside the normal cycle was acting a ghost, monster, or fate breaker. That's why a question mark or a strange symbol often replaced the blank. Diviners didn't want to leave it empty. They forced a placeholder so the record stayed continuous. Dots as first cues such whispers, weird behavior, small signs. Crosses as massacre, death days violence confirmed. Circle or diamond as big turning points, usually tied to sacrifice or reset, who dies to pay the cycle. Blank or question mark as dangerous unknown. That's the moment outside the cycle. The exact space where Boyd's broken watch fits in his question mark was literal. Broken gear, no time mark. Pattern summary, dot as subtle warning. X as danger erupts. Circle as fate sealed. No escape. Cross equal to collapse. Sacrifice. Blank. Question as anomaly or chance to break the cycle. Reset as silence. Dream time. Loop closes. Whoever keeps the record becomes bound by the cycle. Writing the mark as signing the contract with fate, because the marker role is inherited. Each cycle, someone compulsively starts tracking again. It's part of the fate trap. Victor continues too. He draws pictures instead of calendar marks. The marker doesn't survive forever. They survive long enough to pass the record forward. Victor as keeper by drawings and calendar 1971 as keeper by marks. The role hasn't changed, only the medium of the marks. The marks on that calendar were not warnings they could use. They were omens written after the fact, a ritual record, not a prevention tool. Dot symbol for death is close. X symbol for massacre date. Diamond question mark as reset anomaly. So when the keeper wrote it, the event had already been sealed. Like Kenny's jukebox, it breaks, then resets. The calendar was a memory loop, not a strategy. In omen systems, recording an omen isn't neutral. It locks it in. To write it is to accept yes, this will come. That's why the keeper, as calendar writer, is usually cursed. They aren't preventing anything. They're acting like the scribe of fate. Calendar keepers followed the mechanical tally, became passive. They treated fate like a train schedule. Why they didn't change habits because the omen system is rigged. If you follow the pattern, then you mark yourself deeper into it. The calendar trap. If you resist loudly, you still fulfill it, just like Donna's alarm cycle. The town feeds on this tension. You can see the bad omen, but you can't step outside it. The calendar was not a safety manual. It was a death contract log. The colony house residents thought they were tracking to prevent, but really they were feeding the trap by observing it. Time in the town is cyclical like certain hours. Days are cursed. If you're caught at that omen time, fate increases in probability. You can track it, but you can't stop it. This is why clocks and calendars matter so much. They show when you're inside a cursed slot. There are only two human strategies to deal with bad omen cycles. Tally method calendar, 1971. Someone marks days with dots, X, crosses. They think, if I track the massacre pattern, maybe I can avoid it. But writing stabilizes the pattern. They don't change the fate. They just log it. Both trapped. One is Cold Tally Keeper. The other is Cassandra Alarm. Why the residents couldn't change habits? Because the omen system isn't like a weather forecast. It's more like a pressure node. The moment you notice and mark an omen and make label .x alarm, you've already stepped inside it. That's why the colony house residents never broke the cycle, even with the calendar. Tracking fate doesn't cancel it. Warning others doesn't cancel it. Only shows you where you stand in the wheel. Think of it like Friday the 13th superstition. Imagine you keep a calendar and put a red X on every Friday the 13th. You tell everyone bad luck is coming. Stay inside. But the more you mark it, the more accidents actually happen on those days. That's the trap. The belief and the mark is what fuels the curse. Why the calendar becomes a trap. At first, the keeper thinks, If I write down the omen pattern, I can help everyone survive. But in this world, writing stabilizes the pattern. The calendar doesn't warn, it fixes. Once the symbol is written, the cycle is locked. Instead of freedom, the keeper becomes the scribe of fate, turning possibilities into certainties. So the calendar is not just a tool. It is part of the engine that makes the cycle repeat. Why it should help but doesn't. Imagine if Victor's drawings or Donna's alarms actually worked. People would see the pattern and change their habits. The town's death cycle would weaken. But the town itself doesn't allow that. It bends reality so, if you try to hide, then monsters still find you. If you try to warn and people ignore or it backfires. If you write the tally, the pattern repeats. Stronger. This is why Kenny's jukebox, or the calendar, or Victor's drawings always reset. The system corrects itself. Victor is special because he is a keeper of memory, not a scribe of fate. Drawings is interpretation, not binding. He doesn't write day 1 massacre, day 2 dots. He draws what he sees that makes him an archive, not a contract writer. Victor persists because he records without enforcing and live, because he is a guide for the next arrivals. Without Victor, no one could learn the rules. He is part of the trap's balance, not a breaker, not a binder, but a carrier. Calendar keeper dies because keepers collapse under pattern fixation. Victor lives because drawing is remembering. He archives the cycle but doesn't seal it. If you mark the massacre, it still repeats, so his memory doesn't stop anything. It only proves the cycle is real. That's why it feels useless. But from the town's perspective, it's useful for the trap. Someone has to keep the memory alive. Otherwise, every cycle starts from zero. For 96 days before Tabitha and Jade arrived, the town seemed stable. Same weather patterns like sun, rain, no snow. When Tabitha entered the cave system and remembered, unlocked something, the environment shifted. This is exactly how the system stretches around awareness. If no one pushes, it stays steady. When someone unlocks or remembers like Tabitha in the cave, or Jade Pyong violin, the world adjusts violently. So awareness is instability. Clocks Christie, Boyd, Jim, Donna, Tian, Chen, etc. time is owned by omens. You can't escape the cursed hours. Calendar Colony House. Writing marks doesn't prevent fate. It fixes it. Victor's drawing's memory doesn't save, but ensures the next cycle isn't blind. Moving trees space itself is elastic. It bends whenever humans try to measure or stabilize it. Tabitha's cave consciousness changes the pattern, remembering triggering adjustment. So the rules of the town are adaptive. If you ignore, you still die by routine. If you mark, the system locks harder. If you measure, the system stretches. If you remember, the system escalates. That's why Victor survives. His role is keeper of memory, but never breaker. He shows the trap, but doesn't stop it. Victor persists because he records without enforcing. System allows him to live because his drawings make sure new arrivals always start in the middle of the story. Think of the town as a loop. Every cycle, new people arrive. The monsters come, massacres happen, a few survivors remain. The cycle resets, time, space, even objects like jukebox, food, house repairs. If no one remembers the past cycle, then each new group would think they are the first ones ever trapped. That's 0. Victor's drawings are not weapons. They are memory anchors. He shows Tabitha his drawings of massacres. She learns the town has a history. So Victor is like the memory bank of the loop. That's what I mean by from 0. Victor's survival ensures the trap keeps its story running forward instead of wiping out. Victor not a breaker nor a binder. He doesn't stop the cycle like a rebel and doesn't lock it like the calendar keeper. He just carries memory forward. The town wants that because it makes the trap deeper. Every new victim inherits fear and fragments of history. If he dies too soon, the system resets too clean, and maybe that would open a crack to escape. Victor alive, continuity of the cycle. Newcomers learn pieces, stay trapped. Victor dead and reset to scratch newcomers blind. Why memory is dangerous for the system if everyone forgets. The cycle runs smooth. People fight, suffer, die, reset. If someone remembers such Victor, Martin, Donna, they keep the cycle stable by passing forward only partial truth, just enough to trap the next group. If memory keepers are removed, the system risks a blank state. Without Victor's drawings, Tabitha wouldn't know the children in white exist. Without Donna's alarms, Colony House wouldn't have defensive structure. Without Martin, Boyd wouldn't learn about the music box.